This is a how-to on ancestral pagan music and playing that through guidance. We're going to focus on just woodwinds today. I'm going to tell you kind of how to go about it, and then later towards the end I'll do some demonstration. So doing any kind of ancestral music, ancient pagan music, truly that can be hundreds, if not many thousands of years old. And yeah, well, you can find some of the songs that have been retained, especially to the European, pagan songs. Most of them are not retained. Most of them are forgotten. Most of them kind of died out with our ancestors. And so, it's not like you can just, conveniently look it up. And there's also typically not, a massively ancient book somewhere you can look it up in, okay? So you have to do it through guidance, through being guided by the ancestors, basically. If you don't know what that is, I'll try to explain it. I'm not that great at explaining complicated things like that, but basically in paganism, we're guided 24/7. We literally, okay, not just when we're awake, but when we dream, when we're asleep, we are guided every single second of our lives. That's kind of how we live our life, because we have a direct connection to our spirit guides and any other guides, really, totemic guides and things. We can communicate with them directly on a direct level. Now, for each individual person, that communication might be different. Sometimes people just get a feeling, a sixth sense feeling. People like me, I kind of, I don't physically see or physically hear them, but I sense exactly where they are in the room, and definitely, if I close my eyes, I know exactly what they look like, okay? But with my physical eyes, I don't see them. It's more visionary, and I can get, I can hear them, okay? I can hear them, but not with my actual physical ears. I hear what they're saying through kind of a clairvoyant, telepathic type thing. Well, it's not telepathic. It's, because they're stunning, they're talking to you, but it's like you hear it in such a way that it's almost like part of that sort of visionary, that kind of clairvoyance. So I know if I just confused you, I'm sorry. But it's on the level where it's almost, it kind of feels like telepathy, because it's them talking to you, but it's in here. It's not audio, like it's not physical, okay? And then there's other people who can communicate with their spirit guardians and guides physically without even going into an altered state, without even going into the dream realm. They can see them and physically hear them. So as a child, I could do that a little bit, but the gift was intermittent and uncontrolled, and I actually opted to kind of, it scared the fuck out of me, so I kind of suppressed that, and I think now that's why I kind of don't have too much of the physical, audio and visual, and it's more just, you close your eyes and you see a vision, or you hear a word or something, but it's in here. So however you are communicating with them, however you get that communication, it often is downright very needlepoint accurate, specific on what they want you to do. And you don't always know why, but eventually you realize the importance of that. And that's especially important when you're doing a song. You know, you don't have to be perfect, okay? You don't have to, I'm not, you know, you don't have to be like a perfect musician, okay? But you need a basic knowledge, a very basic beginner knowledge on the flute. And so you need to memorize what notes are where on the flute, you know, and just kind of basic muscle memory stuff. But nothing more than that. And so, yeah, you can fumble on a note to something, right? Maybe you're supposed to play this note, but instead you play that note. Okay, who knows? And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, whatever you're doing, whether it's a ritual or some ceremonious, whatever you're doing, you don't have to start all over the song all over again. Very few things require that. Most of the time, if you mess up on a note or something, because intent matters more than perfection, intent goes a really long way. All you really got to do is, you know, try your best to hit the right note and try to correct it and then continue on. It's more important that, you know, you're trying your best to do what you know you're being guided to, than it is to not receive the message clearly and not even know what you're supposed to do. So if that makes any sense. So the guidance, you know, in everyday life to somebody who's not pagan, who doesn't know anything about this, they're kind of walking around oblivious to it, okay? But they're still being guided even though they don't know that they are. And I'm not talking about any kind of oppression or possession ever. Your guides would never do that, okay? That's not what they do. In fact, that's kind of against the laws of the universe, because the guide is there only to tell you what you should do, not to force you. That's kind of the entire point of life, you know. They're trying to teach you the right path, but if you don't want to follow that path, that's on you. You know, that's your choice. You know, that's part of the, you know, physical realm, is that, you know, they are not going to influence really anything. All they're going to do is present the idea, and if you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. You know, you don't have any real sensation of, like, you know, that you don't have a choice to think, you know. So I don't want you to think that. It's more just like them putting it out there and saying, you know, this is what you should do. It's kind of in Abrahamic sense. It isn't, okay. It's not a guardian angel, but it's kind of the idea that someone is there trying to tell you what's right to do and what's best for you. And if you disagree, there's nothing they can do about it. You know, see what I'm saying? So, to the average everyday person, like I said, going through that guidance, it may just be as simple as, okay, you're coming home from work and you, and we'll get to the flutes right after this, I promise. And you, you know, got 2 ways to go, and there's a quick way and there's a really stupid slow way, and for whatever strange reason, you know, you're like, you know what, I just want to go the dumb way today. And if you've got that thought in your head and you entertain the idea, you know, you'll have this feeling like you should do it, but you don't know why. And you can follow that idea, or you can just say, that's a stupid idea, I'm not going to listen to that. If had you just hypothetically follow that idea, and then you go the stupid way home, okay, the dumb way, the long way, then you realise you're starting to look at social media and things, and you realise that had you gone the normal, fast way, hypothetically, you know, that road is completely gone. It crumbled away and eroded, and there's some kind of like rock slide or something that just like took it out completely. And, you know, a bunch of these cars got knocked away and went down a gigantic cliff, and a lot of people died. Okay, had you been there, when that happened, you might have died, you know. So it's just like that kind of guidance when it's the people that don't know any better. And but when it's something like this, you can sit right there and have a conversation with him, basically, you know. And you don't have to say it out loud, really, because they know, you know, they have a communication on a level. I guess in that case, it kind of is like telepathy, because they know what you're thinking, kind of, when you communicate with them. And you know, so you don't always have to outwardly speak to them, but so that's kind of what guidance is. And most of our spirit guardians and guides are going to be ancestors most of the time, especially the ones that, you know, you're asking to teach you this. And you're going to have the basic skill of sensing the energies. Okay, is this really a guide, or is this some random malicious spirit that is just trying to pose as a guide? You definitely don't just want to listen to any random, you know, spirit. You want to make sure it's an actual guide and an actual ancestor that's there for the right reasons. Okay. So it does take some basic skill in terms of, you know, the bread and butter of paganism, what you should, you know, what everyone should learn first. You know, it's basic, but you should have at least mastered that before you attempt something like this. Okay. And unfortunately, mastering that usually takes a lot longer than remembering basic things on the flute. So, you know, if you haven't done that yet, this probably isn't going to be, if you really hasn't got your feet wet in that and tried it a few times, you know, I wouldn't recommend doing that right just yet. But there's a few ways that you can do this. You know, some people prefer to just kind of be guided on what notes to play next and sense which note to play next, but it doesn't flow as good that way. You want to actually hear the song. You want to hear it playing in your head like a record. So what I do is, you know, I sit there and I have to clear my head of any other thoughts, and this is really difficult for me because I've got ADHD, but I do. I've got to say, okay, I can't think about the birds making the annoying noises outside that I wish would shut up. I can't think about what I'm having for supper. I can't think about, you know, talking to this person tomorrow. I can't think about my schedule the day after that. I can't think about, you know, oh, what's that thing, you know, out there, you know, that I see at the corner of my eye. You know, I can't, the only thing that I can think about is that I'm allowed to think about, and it's almost like a meditation type thing. You don't have to actually meditate, but you have to at least clear your mind. Okay, meditation can help push things along faster. In fact, if nothing's happening, you might actually want to entice meditation. Wow. I need something, don't I? So you might actually want to entice meditation for that. But first, just kind of try to clear your head and see if that works. Okay. And then, you know, just kind of sit there, close your eyes if you want to, until you start to get a tune in your head, a song in your head. Okay. What I like to do is, first I hear the first several notes, I start playing that. And so then about the time that I've almost finished playing the first set of notes, then I'm already hearing the second set of notes. So it's almost like, you know, they're playing to me, and then I'm echoing them, and then they're playing the next set of notes, and then I echo the next set of notes, you know. And because it happens in rhythm like that, you know, there's not really a pause. You know, it ends up sounding like just it flows like, you know, pretty much the song. There's no pause between segments, you know. So I can't really explain it, but I can demonstrate maybe what I mean. And yeah, you might sit there for several minutes, maybe even half an hour, and nothing happened first few times. But once you open that door, usually it's pretty easy to do it. You know, if you've done it a few times, it's pretty easy to do it again and again. You never know what you're going to end up playing until you actually sit down and play. Um, so that's the striking thing, because yeah, you know, even now I still don't know what I'm going to play, and you know, I never know until I get that song in my head. So you know, these are all different kinds of energies too, these flutes, and so you want to make sure that whichever flute you're guided to pick up is the flute that will play that song. If I picked up a different flute, you know, maybe it wouldn't work for that song. So the key and scale's got a lot to do with it. The individual just voice of the flute also has a lot to do with it as well. I'm going to pull out several different flutes for you to show you just how differently they what they naturally play versus what they cannot play. Okay. And I'm actually, before I do something by being guided, before I do that, I've taken this flute out first. Actually, I was guided to take this out first, but I'm taking this flute out first. It's probably one of the, actually I think it is, the most difficult one for me to create my own song with, because the key it's in is not in the scale it's in. It doesn't ring true to my own energy. It's not kindred energy. And so even though the flute itself is nice energy, the key and the scale that it's in isn't, it doesn't come naturally to me. And so when I try to make my own song with it, usually I can't. I try and it's just botched as fuck. So I'm going to do this trying to make my own song first without being guided, and then I'm going to do the same thing, but instead of it being my own song that I'm trying to make up, I'm going to be doing it through what my guides are telling me to play instead. So again, very important to note, what I'm about to play is not being guided. Okay, this is just me fiddling around being dumb. Okay, wishing that I was smart and being dumb. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I really don't. I try. But I can't think of it on my own. That's what happens when I try to play this particular flute. There's some other flutes that I can make my own song with. This isn't one of them. So let's do it through being guided now. And I'm not perfect, right? I'm not perfect at actually playing because I'm not expert at playing. So, you know, I did make a few fumbly mistakes, but you can tell it's a lot better than me just trying to make up a dumb song, okay? So that's this one, okay? It's the most difficult one. I'm relying completely on being guided when I do this. So this is the next one, and for this one and the next one, it's just going to be guidance alone. I'm not going to make up anything. It's just going to be just guidance, okay? Whatever I'm playing, I have no fucking clue until I actually start to play it. So this is actually a bit more difficult to play, but the key and the scale that it's in, the combination of that, I think is a bit more kindred spirit to me. So, you know, in a way it flows better, but also in a way it doesn't, because physically it's more challenging to play, and so I fumble on the notes a bit more. So FYI on that. Yeah, and I have no idea what I'm about to play. I'm just going to kind of listen and play. Okay, so that's that one. And we'll do one more. And I don't want to keep going. Like, I don't want to just like keep playing and playing and playing, you know, because obviously you don't have to do that. For an example, I'm warning you, the next one that I do, it's so in sync with my own energy that I sometimes forget how long I've been playing. I lose track of time. I'm going to try my best to keep it, you know, pretty short and simple, like I've been doing. But this next one is, I lose all sense of time. I get a bit carried away. So let's just hope that I don't get carried away this time. And that I can fully focus when my guides tell me, okay, that's enough now, shut up, then I can shut up, okay. So that I don't bore you to death. This one is in an ancient scale. I really like it, really ancient pentatonic scale. And it's a drone, which I'm not usually a fan of, but I like this drone. This drone's not too overbearing, so not only do you have to worry about, okay, what notes to play, but also when to add the drone and when to just play that one chamber and when to play both chambers is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, it's two chambers there. messed up right now. Messed up again. Okay. Okay. So there are a few times where I mess up on the other ones and I just kind of keep rolling through it. But with this one, when I mess up on this one, what happens is if I don't do that half step, there's a half step on here that's mandatory. And you know, before I had this flute, I really didn't have too many flutes that had mandatory half steps, and so my brain has to think a little longer with the half step, and that's why I stopped. And I was like, you know, because the brain's got to think about exactly how to do that half step, and my brain is tiny and dumb, so it takes me a while to learn, and I really do have a learning disability, by the way. So you know, it's anything new like that, and it's that's why I had to really, for a few seconds, stop right there and explain to you why I stopped. But yeah, it's you know, something that doesn't usually, what you're doing doesn't usually constitute for having to do the entire song over again. Okay, as long as you don't lose the energy and you correct your mistake, you just do that one little segment or one little note over again, and that's all you should have to do. So in my opinion, no flute, you know, is exactly the same, meaning no key and or scale combination especially is going to have the same results, much less the individual voice of the flute and just overall the individual vibrational sound, the baseline sound of the flute. So, you know, it's got its own, it really does, it's got its own little personality, and if you're trying to force it to play everything, especially trying to force it to play something that it's not naturally intended for, you know, then it's not going to do it. So it's really important that you get the right key and type of scale. There's all different kinds of scales too, and I got all that, a ton of videos on stuff like that if you want to learn more about that. The biggest thing I can say is don't assume. Don't assume things. You know, make sure that when you're doing this, you truly are being what we call hollow. And I don't mean hollow in the way that like you allow something like pass through you, okay, and possess you and take over your body and play for you. That's not what I mean. I don't mean that kind of hollow. I mean, you know, that you're hearing what you're meant to play clearly, and you're not trying to do a game of telephone where you're trying to just put in a bunch of notes to the ones that you're not sure about. That you really take the time to try and listen clairvoyantly and hear every single little note in rhythm that you possibly can. You know, and like I said, the intent means more than anything else. So if you know what you are meant to play, if you know what you are trying to play, and that's the intent behind it, and if you fuck up on a couple notes here and there, the intensity of the magic is going to remain the same regardless, because that intent goes a long way. Okay, so as long as you're listening with clarity, what you actually play doesn't have to be immaculate, but it should be as close as possible as you can get it. Especially when you're doing specific rituals and things. So yeah, you know, these songs, you know, who knows where they come from. Sometimes they might be at one time widely known, but sometimes it could just be literally from a very small tribe somewhere, even just, an individual family that knew that song and no one else. You don't really know always when your guides are telling you, unless you take the time to consult them and ask them where this come from and do a completely different visionary task to find out. You're not really going to know the origins, but you will know the general feeling and energy and emotion that the song is bringing forth. And you can even ask your guys, hey, I need a song, I need some kind of song for this or for that, or that will work with this, or you can just do what I do most of the time and just let them pick it. But it's when you play it and when you hear it, it unearths something long forgotten within you, and it cannot be replaced by modern music. It just can't. And it also cannot be replaced by modern instruments. That is why, you don't see me with those ear-piercingly loud, penny whistles made of tin. You see me playing things with the kind of energy that it needs to, but yeah, it's just, nothing can replace the heart and the spirits that was within those songs. You can try,